Yo, it's me, Zach Scandura here, back for another anniversary comic. I'm not gonna do that. Anyways, so welcome back. This has been a year since I did one of these. I'll probably do another speed art this year. But anyways, point is, this is a remake. Obviously, I do that every year. For once, it's not the remake of my first comic because, like, you know, what am I gonna improve on? The only difference between my comic style then and now is that, ooh, the hoodie got slightly changed. Ooh, it's a different color, and the hoodie strings are slightly different shape. Ooh. So obviously, that doesn't matter. But, you know, the main thing to take away from this, I chose this comic to remake because the Jessica comic, this is a true story, by the way, this comic is. It's easily my favorite comic, not just because of the story, but I also thought it was always the best looking one. But, you know, and I'd show it to people saying that, like, this is probably my best looking one, but it's definitely not, you know, the most updated one, if that made sense. So, you know, I really wanted to remake it for a while, and that was the perfect opportunity. This, though, was easily, out of all comics I've ever made, probably the most time-consuming. Don't hold me to that, but this comic, you know, over multiple sessions, obviously, the total recorded footage took 12 hours, 41 minutes, and 9 seconds. So, now that's only like 44, 45 minutes. You can see, yeah, I definitely had to speed it up a lot. Yeah, so, but it probably took around 13 hours, and 13 and a half hours more so, because I spent a bit over 45 minutes just doing some slight off-camera adjustments off-screen. All they really were just, I updated some clouds and fixed some grass in the background so it didn't clash with the foreground. That's literally all I did. It's not worth anything. But, you know, so this comic, I chose to remake it. It was my favorite one. And, you know, it's kind of my origin story, Jessica being the biggest part of my life. And a lot of that has caused me to, with her death, it's caused me to latch on to a lot of people. I'm planning to make a comic about that. Because I kind of realized this year that I am, you know, amongst my other flaws, I try to depict them in my comics to show that I'm an imperfect person. Because I feel like it's better if you're imperfect, but it's more relatable that way. But the main thing is that the main thing is that with this, I try to next comic I want to show like some of my more worst things, like my toxicity as a human, because I have neglect issues. This comes a lot from like being with a single mother. Being an only child, and like early in my life, well, he's around a lot now, or earlier in my life my dad wasn't around that often, and I was in a war zone between my parents, and it was, you know, it was rough, because I also spent most, if not all of my life alone, so that's probably why I looked so much up to Jessica, because she was like the one calm in the chaos of my family, and, you know, when she died, it was like, what else could I really do? It was, you know, it was really hard. But with that being said, I do think that this is probably going to stay my best comic. The remake will be, considering how much time I put into it and how, you know, just the storytelling of it. I got some suggestions from some people of how to work it, like, change the numbers from just being like 5, 10, whatever, to saying like age 5, age 10, so it's more clear, and adding Jessica's bandana on the gravesite. What's weird is that, like, Jessica never drew herself with that bandana, which was weird because she would wear it all the time. Not that specific one. She'd have different ones, obviously. Whenever she did draw her with her bandana, which again was like extremely rarely, I think she said it was hard to, and also the bandana didn't represent her child self. But yeah, but whenever she did, she would do the orange one with the polka dots. So I was like, I'll do that one. It was also the one I remembered the most. But anyways, as a tradition for this comic, let's get into the questions. So the first one, yeah, because every year I do questions, if you didn't know. The first Discord question comes from my goodest, if not bestest friend, Sean. Sean, as most of you guys know from some of my videos I make, you know, he's kind of like a member of my family. Not my family, he's family to me and no one else in my family. But, you know, I really love him. He's a great guy. He's helped me out through some tough times. He's very funny. He's an asshole, but I love him for it. His question was, what people that you know in your life inspire you? So, in my life, so outside of this, obviously Jessica, she was the big driving force for art. In my life. I mean, I've always been an artist. That was always a thing, but she was like one of the reasons I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna say in my life, just like people I've met, talked to, and such, just so that I don't have to, because there's another question following up about inspiration, so I'll use that for not life things. But yeah, so there would be Jessica, obviously. Another person, I've talked to him about him a lot, David Mitchell, also known as Astro the Stickman. He's kind of become like a big brother to me in recent years, always dealing with my bullcrap. But, yeah, and he's a great guy. When he was like in his, really early, like 11 to 13, he would do, 11 to 14 maybe, he would make, these projects on Scratch, and they were, I mean, it's Scratch, it's not anything, it's a child's programming website, but he would make some really funny animations, and to this day, I still like a lot of them, which is probably not good. Now they're just kind of nostalgic, but anyways, he's probably, besides Jessica, he would probably be the biggest person inspiration. Sean, though, you yourself, he has made a bunch of, he's made a lot of cool ideas for fantasy works. Like, I already said this several times. What I want to do is create, like, the next big manga for a living, like, kind of like how Akira Toriyama, who made Dragon Ball Z, or just Dragon Ball, passed the torch down to Eiichiro Oda, who made One Piece, the best-selling manga of all time. My dream is for that torch to be passed down to me. And, you know, I'm working on a story. It's, you know, slightly darker than One Piece and stuff. Ironically enough, I'm not going to say too much about it, but the story I came up with was, in a sense, just like people traveling a huge world with all these different ideas and factions, where, you know, where these guys would go and, you know, find more people into their, you know, crew or whatever. And then I read One Piece and realized that Oda had the exact same idea. So I realized that my brain's not original enough, I guess, because I didn't even read One Piece when I came up with the idea. It was quite a few years before then. But anyways, yeah, so David Mitchell, Sean for some great fantasy ideas, and obviously Jessica. Next person is my friend Jamin, named Benjamin. Anyways, Benjamin asks why. And not why this, why that, just why. So let's get into some philosophy here. Probably evolution. I'll just say why for my creation. Because next year I'm planning to do some more things about, like, you know, my struggles with my parents and stuff. I know it's really edgy shit, and like it's like, oh, my mom doesn't understand me. I do come from a somewhat broken home, though. It's not too amazing. Like, I have a dad in my life. I think I already mentioned this, but like, even though I didn't see him too much during my early life, he has come back in my life. Like, I would see him a lot as like really little, and then there was just a period of my life where I just would see him once every 2 months or so, and then, you know, he's been back in my life since I was like 11 or 12, and he's stayed ever since, which I'm very grateful for, because even though like some of that caused a lot of loneliness and arguably trauma, which again, I hate using words like trauma because it makes me feel like, oh, I'm a victim. It's, and the therapist says it's trauma, I'll say it's trauma, with like loneliness and such. I've mostly forgiven my dad. You know, he's a great guy, and he's fun, and, you know, and there's other parenting struggles with, like, my mom, where, like, when I was really little. Speaking of which, with this comic, I walked out. The reason I was walking out mad is because I had a fight with my mom. I don't quite remember what the fight was about, but during that time when I was 5, she was having real work struggles. Like, people were just being assholes to her at work. And since I was the only real person in her life outside of work, even though I was only 5-year-old, she had to take it out on something. So she took it out on me, which I'm not going to blame her for, obviously. If you're stressed, you need to take something out on someone. Obviously, a 5-year-old is not the best choice, but when you don't have another option, you're not going to do it You're going to do it instinctively, whether you mean to or not. Anyway, so why? My parents met over 18 years ago, because I'm 17 now, almost 18. So over 18 years ago, which is weird to think about, my parents met, they fucked, and then I came. I'm pretty much a one-night stand baby, unfortunately. I'm not, like, they were on and off for a year, but it's nothing big. My parents were never married. They hate each other. Well, my mom hates my dad. My dad is neutral towards my mom, but there's just a lot of shit. I'm not gonna get into it. But, anyways, both have reasons, rightful reasons to be, like, to dislike the other. So, because both my parents have done things that weren't great. But, anyways, so why? That's why. Next question. B. This is B. I mentioned her before. B is, like, family to me. She's, like, my older sister until I fuck something up again, and then I move on to the next person, because I am, again, I said this, I'm a toxic mess. But, anyways, B so far is great. I'm terrified. But anyways, so B asks, will you answer this question? No. Next question. It's also from B. What's a place that you've never been to in a comic, but have been, to, like, shockingly often in real life? Honestly, I might say my house. Because the house I have in my comics that I go in, this was my old house that I used to live in, like, until I was 10. And I have not, besides my bedroom, I haven't drawn anything from the new house. Because, like, while the old house was really small and stuff, it was my childhood home. And, I'm planning to use the same house in the manga I want to create. Which, by the way, just a short note, the design for, the character who's based off of me, and the design for, the main character in the manga are very similar, but I created the manga character first when I was 12, and then like a few months later I created the me character based off of the manga character. So it's kind of like a Khonjin House situation where even though most people see Khonjin as coming first, Pen technically came first. Most of you are not going to know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't seen Khonjin House, check it out. It's great. Anyways, so I guess my current house I've been living in for 7, 8, almost 8 years. That's probably where I'd say. Also maybe like my favorite ramen place, called Zunbox. It's really good. Anyways, so let's move on from Discord questions to Instagram questions. I only have one, and it is from my boy Shane. That's the username. I don't know this person. He said, "Do you wipe up or down?" So we're getting to this level. So I wipe up mostly and then down, just like a little bit, to get some excess shit off. Okay. Tumblr. Fuck God. Joe Owl.
If I pronounce that name wrong, change it.
What's your inspiration for your art? So, biggest inspiration, not real life, because I answered that with Sean's question. Well, the first time, when I realized I wanted to make manga for a living, I was like, it was from a game I used to play with my friends called the Paper Game. You know those, like, little RPG games you would play with your friends as, like, a little kid? Well, we had the Paper Game, and I wanted to make my living based off of a manga based off of that. Because it was all these fantastical stories, and it was great. But nowadays, I would say the first, like, outer worldly person, because that took a lot of inspiration from Dragon Ball Z, except more spacey. So I would say Akira Toriyama, because, I mean, the whole idea when I came up with the manga I want to create, which still doesn't have a name, you know, I imagined somewhat Dragon Ball Z-like. I mean, now it's very much more One Piece-like, and I would definitely say that Eiichiro Oda is my biggest inspiration, just because how he kind of took my vision and made it. I mean, he started it before I was born, but, like, we had the same idea, and then I read One Piece and realized I'm a fraud. But, but yeah, I would definitely say Eiichiro Oda for the biggest, but, you know, there were quite a few. There's him, mainly Eiichiro Oda and Akira Toriyama, but Masashi Kishimoto was also a big one, who created Naruto. Well, I don't necessarily, I'm not as big of a fan of Naruto as I used to be. In fact, I don't think it aged too well. The pre-time skip, like the first 250 chapters or so, are great, and I think most people who love shonen manga should read them. After that, I just don't think it gets too great. I really think, like, after the battle with Pain, it should have just ended there, because, you know... But, anyways, there's enough video about it. Link in the description from SuperEyePatchWolf's amazing video on Naruto, and I agree with most of what he says. But, with that being said, yeah, Kishimoto was the biggest inspiration until I read One Piece, and then I kind of just threw Naruto out the window and stopped caring. But... with that being said, Naruto is still good, it's just not as much of my thing anymore. Anyways, so... Next question. Oh, that was all for Tumblr. Alright. By the way, on Instagram, even though I only got one question, there were several friends of mine who liked the photo anyways and didn't bother to ask anything. That pissed me off, because that's essentially saying, like, hey, I'm seeing what you're doing. I've seen that you're asking for questions. I'm liking the photo to acknowledge it. I'm not asking any questions. So that's just a dick move. But anyways, next up on DeviantArt questions is Haikyuu. Haikyuu is a fan of mine, actually. Like, I rarely have fans, but Haikyuu is one, and they're awesome because of it. So thank you. Very much appreciate the support. You're a good friend. Anyways, so what drawings are you most proud of? Is their question. I would definitely say, out of all the drawings I'm most proud of, the problem with me in drawings is that, well, first off, I don't have self-esteem, so I usually don't think about many things I'm very proud of, necessarily. But if I had to choose, I would say probably these two right here. Future me put that on screen. And, yeah, just because they're manga. One's children in a forest, and I just really think the forest itself turned out really well. The other one was, like, my first real, like, manga art that I made, showing, like, ideas of wind effects. The line art didn't turn out super great, but overall it's fine. I think it works out well, and I know, like, these things are definitely going to be improved upon in the future. And you can see in those arts that I was definitely inspired by Oda. Jesus. Anyways. So next one is from Callie Draw Stuff. Callie is a friend of mine, too. She's really neat. I haven't talked to her too much, but, if you don't know, I've been working on Scratch, you know, that old website for kids. My friends and I made something called the Scratch Saga, which was like a giant collaboration of just these big people on the website, just to say thank you, essentially. And I'm not to my horn, I might be the third most important person on the project, even though the two most important are, like, the developers. I'm probably not even the third, but, because there's, like, you know, the people who draw the thumbnails. This is all it's all professional, but, weirdly for a Scratch project. But, anyways, I would say, yeah, it's, so yeah, she made reviews for it. She made reviews for the Scratch Saga, like full-on YouTube videos. I'll hopefully try to remember to bring that in the description too. But yeah, so Callie's really cool, and because we were all really impressed with her reviews of just, you know, like a 13-year-old just making random reviews of some Scratch Saga, but making them professionally quality and funny too, we were like, yeah, let's let's just talk to her because we thought she was cool, and we did, and now we're all friends with her. But anyways, her question, Callie's question is, what are the hardest and easiest things for you to draw? So easiest is definitely mouths. Mouths are definitely just like, cause I've drawn a lot of mouths in my day. That sounded weird, but with mouths are just like, you know, one of my main skills as an artist, and probably my biggest one, is that I'm good with expression. So like mouths and eyebrows, definitely. They just come natural to me. Like I'll just make a face that I think works for any given scene, whether it's emotional or not. And yeah, if I think it works, I think it works. With that being said, the hardest thing for me to draw, most people are going to relate to this, it's hands. I've actually gotten pretty decent at drawing hands. The problem is I always draw them like the same, and I can't really do different poses and stuff. Another problem I have is that I don't have necessarily same face syndrome that a lot of people who create manga do. This comic is not manga. This comic is a cartoon, a simplistic cartoon at that. But well, I actually do draw manga, like make new character designs. The problem is that they look really like similar art style, and not good similar. It's not same face syndrome because they have clearly different faces, but those faces are clearly like in a similar art style. I'm not making good sense of it, but yeah, what are you gonna do? Anyways, so now those are the questions. So I guess next thing to do is what I usually do, and review the year. So the first one of the year was Little Tired. The number 33, Little Tired. This one I have a friend named Lily, and she's the voice of Jessica in my Scratch projects, or was. She didn't want to do it anymore, which is fine. We just talked about it, and yeah, got over it. We're cool. I'll find a new voice actor eventually. So this one is just like, I would call her Lils, just like as a joke, because her name's Lily. And I just want to make that a comic because I thought it was funny. But, I mean, I'm kind of an asshole. But, whatever. So the next one, this is where, oof, I said last year that I wanted to get more depression-filled with my comics because I don't know, I like doing that. I like telling stories. This one got a lot of flack from some of my friends when I posted it. So this comic depicts, you know, kind of anxiety with like how I say things. Like, cause my problem is that I say words and they're not good words. I know words, I know the worst words, and the problem is, and what I did was, for the joke, I would say, you look pretty beautiful today, because it was my friend B, which ripped off the last comic, making the joke about Little Tired. And with that, you know, I would slowly make B get slightly more cruel and more monstrous. I actually had B help out with the monster design. Here it is. Here's the monster design that she created, because, like, obviously I asked her if she could be the monster in this, and she said, yeah, sure. But people didn't, when I posted in the Discord chat between me and a bunch of other artists from Scratch, we're all gone, we're all teenagers, the website's for kids, but, you know, we became good friends as kids on the site, so we just decided to keep communicating. But everyone gave me so much shit for that comic, to the point where I got scared of posting anything else on there, because, like, people didn't realize that B was, like, totally cool with everything, but they thought, like, instead of the message I was trying to create about, like, social anxiety and stuff, it was just me trying to demonize a friend, which, obviously, no. It got to the point where B had to, like, speak out about it and be like, look, no, I relayed to this idea, so I had to, you know, so that's why I let him use me as part of this. But, anyways, that's a whole thing. But, anyways, yeah, this comic looks actually really good now that I'm looking at it. I really like B's design for her monster. It looks really unique, obviously. And I think this all turned out really well. By the way, the last panel about you should make more upbeat comics, that's David Mitchell, or Astro. That guy I was talking about, like the big inspiration, Big Brother guy, whatever. that's actually, this comes from my family. My grandmother constantly wants to publish my comics, but she can't because they're too dark, which, okay, she's like, you should make upbeat comics so I can publish them or whatever. And I'd be more than flattered to have my comics published and stuff, but like, I'm not gonna censor anything. I'm not gonna change my format because these comics are for me. I'm not gonna do it just for some publisher's sake, which, you know, obviously that's not gonna help me get money, but like, fuck money, you know? But, so I was like, this was basically my response to people saying that you should make more happy comics. It's like, I don't wanna, let me live my life. There's enough of those already. Go watch the first 10 years of Garfield. The 30 other years were not good and unoriginal. But anyways, moving on to the next comic. 35, 17th birthday. This was just, you know, it was just my birthday comic. It was nothing special. It was just me saying, hey, I'm 17. The two people in this comic are my best friend Jamel and another really good friend named John. This whole what do you want, a cookie, comes from Chris Rock. Amazing comedian, by the way. My three favorite comedians are Louis C.K., which I understand why people would be like, Louis C.K., you know, he did a lot of bad things, and I'm not gonna defend them. All I can say is, like, considering his upbringing, this is the same thing I say with Michael Jackson. This isn't me defending them. I think what they did was horrible, obviously, but considering their upbringing and their sudden rise to power, it just makes sense these are what happened, because people, when they suddenly get a lot of power, they don't know what's right and what's wrong. With that being said, again, this is not defending them. They did was bad. And I hate saying how much I love Louis C.K. as a comedian, because he's so damn funny, but he really did not do a good thing. And same with Michael Jackson. He's an amazing musician. You know, molesting children is not good. I mean, obviously, even if you're molested as a child, that doesn't excuse it. It just, again, it makes sense that that's what happened. Since he was molested as a child, that ended with everything else. But anyways, so the other two favorite comedians are Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. And just because they're very different from Louis C.K., Louis C.K. will just say, like, you know, he'll make, like, a really funny, quotable line and move on with some stories. But Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, they teach you, like, life stories, you know, they teach you, like, lessons, basically, and make you think. Which I think is, like, the best power a comedian can have. Make you think through laughter. That's why I take more lessons from comedians than I do from actual teachers at my school. Anyways, that's all this was. I was just like, because like, in the Black People versus N-word thing, one of my favorite comedian pieces of all time, Chris Rock was saying how N-words would, I'm not gonna say the word, I'm white, and I'm not, it doesn't undo slavery. There's still racism, guys. You can't say the word. Anyways, so he would be like, you know, these people love taking credit for things they're supposed to do. Like, I've never been to jail. You're not supposed to go to jail. I take care of my kids. What do you want, a cookie? So I took that from that. Alright, next up, this was, Alright, this was, number 36, 6th grade. This was rough. Okay, so in 6th grade, this is all what happened. I had a best friend named he and I were great friends for years. He and my other friend, who, I'm not getting into that, and I were really great friends, and he was one of the reasons I love Sonic the Hedgehog so much, because we would just play it and talk about it all the time. You know, and we were really close, and then all of a sudden, 6th grade happened. Someone died in our class, which was terrifying. And this was also me coming off the heels of Jessica's death, because it was in the summer when I found out that year, right before 6th grade. So, you know, he was having identity issues, along with all the shock that someone in our classroom died in a four-wheeling accident, which, he was a really nice kid. His name was Alex Palin. He was a really great kid, and the last conversation I had with him, unfortunately, was just like, he just said, hey, and I just said, hey, back. And we were like, what's up? And that was it. And, you know, it was rough. And, again, he was just such a great person. And it was, because he was nice. He taught me, I can somewhat breakdance. and, you know, I learned how to do the worm from him, and that, like, that got a bunch of my friends impressed for once in my middle school life. So, I have that shred of popularity thanks to him. But anyways, coming with that, and, struggling with identity issues, I probably censor the name. Anyways, coming off the heels with that, he you know, he was struggling with identity issues. He turned out to be bi the next year, and, you know, he would act out because of it. And this is, I said all this in the comic. This is a very wordy comic, and it was just me explaining everything that happened, and how we were great friends, and I betrayed him. I bullied him the most, probably, out of everyone. Obviously, other people bullied him, but it was enough to be forgivable. I was bad, and I could not feel worse about that. Here's the thing, though. After all that happened, he actually messaged me. After I posted this comic, he actually messaged me, and we talked for a little bit. He forgave me, which was really something. We had a lot of fights afterward. After he was forced to leave the school, and afterward, you know, he would just talk to me about, like, he would vehemently hate me, like, on chat boards and stuff, because he would still talk to people from our school. And I would just try to do my best, because by the end of the year, I realized how badly I fucked up and betrayed my best friend. So I would try to be nice. Obviously, every little shit I got in the next 2 years, more than deserved, I think. In fact, I might have deserved more shit. But, you know, from that, but from all of that, after all that, me saying a bunch of mean things to him, and him just having to deal with it, and him saying not as many mean things to me the next 2 years, and me just having to deal with it, you know, he messaged me, and he forgave me, and, you know, after me apologizing so much from everything, and, you know, he said we were different people, very different people now than we were then, and we just talked for a little bit about our lives and our aspirations, and it felt really cathartic. I still don't think I'm ever gonna forgive myself for what happened, but I know that, like, I can sleep at night now, knowing all this, and this is definitely my biggest regret out of everything I've done on purpose. This is definitely something that I really hate myself for, because he was always there for me too. It was rough. But anyways, yeah, but everything's okay with him now, and me. We're definitely at very different places in our lives, and, you know, I wish him the best. If you're watching this, thank you so much for everything, from ages 6 to 12. You were truly my best friend. Anyways, number 37. This was Jessica's World. This is another Jessica comic. I did this for her birthday because usually during Halloween, in the past 2 years, I would make something based off of, like, the trends. You know, there were big trends for Halloween. Like, the 2016 one was everyone would, like, dress up as clowns and chase people. The second one, Stephen King's It, was extremely popular, so I made comics based off of both of those. But this time there wasn't any big Halloween trends, so I just made one about Jessica because her birthday was on Halloween. This goes into the story of the red hoodie and why I wear one every day in real life and in comic. Yeah, it's she'd want me to wear a red hoodie every day to be like, it has to be realistic. Jessica was great, but she was always a bit more opinionated and not as easygoing. It was funny. She also came up with this quote that was like, being stupid just means that you see the world differently. And she would always say that quote because I think people gave her, like, a bunch of credit. We're like, wow, such a young woman saying such an intelligent whatever, blah, blah. And I think she took that to heart, and she would be really fucking, like, she'd say it all the time and be kind of like, I'm smart because I did it. It was funny. Looking back on it. Jessica was a lot of things. She wasn't the most humble, necessarily. She'd be quiet, but, like, you know, if she got to know her better, you know she would like to say things about herself. Which, I mean, it's better than constantly insulting yourself. But anyways, this goes on. The thing is, with the green hoodie, too, a lot of people would know, for my first year when I had Jossie, who was a close friend, who, you know, who I had a falling out with because of very different cultures that we grew up in, her being, like, in a very remote southern state, me being in, like, a decently big city, from Minneapolis, where it's very democratic and very liberal, compared to, you know, where she was from, which was very, you know, conservative and Christian. And during 9th grade, I was just in a whole atheist phase. I was like, your Christianity, you're evil. But with that being said, you know, we had a falling out because I was just being an asshole towards her, and I really regret it, but, you know, she randomly sent me a photo of her just wearing a green hoodie. She was like, you got a red hoodie, I got a green hoodie, and I didn't tell her at the time because I didn't think about it, but, like, you know, that was something Jessica did. Like, she was the one who wanted me to wear a red hoodie, so I would draw her with the green hoodie, because it would, one, again, it works color contrast wise, second, it was just a good idea. Oh yeah, also another thing for the history between me and the red hoodie is I also made a spin-off comic of Jessica's fan-made spin-off comic of Ed's World, and I called it Zach's World, starring me, my at the time best friend Will, and at the other time good friend Josh, who is I didn't think he ever actually cared for me as a friend, but again, he didn't have a personality, so who cared? Or any human thoughts besides basketball. I'm serious, this man was a definition of the... Okay, I'm not gonna get... That was mean, I'm sorry. Anyways... Yeah, so I made that, and I wore a red hoodie every day before then just because of that. Now I obviously do it because, you know, it's mementing my best friend's death. And obviously, I think Jessica's death did a really big turmoil on me, because now I always have to latch onto some sistery figure, like with Jossie and now B, and it's like, and it's not healthy. I see your therapist about this, but you know, obviously I'm doing my best, and I'm gonna make my next comic about that. All right, speed round, let's go. All right, so this is a comic about me being late. That's it. This was me during a test, an English test for English credit. Luckily, I got the English credit for college, so we're all good. All it really was just me having a bunch of thoughts, putting ideas about girls in there. What I did was, oh god, there's a siren in the background. Okay, anyways, what I did was talk about the girl from comic number 10, who is a person. I'll shut up about that. Anyways, so I did a little callback, and that made me feel cool. I was like, yeah, I did a comic comeback. Anyways, so I left this comic on a slight cliffhanger. Not really, but what are you gonna do? And me being like, oh no, I'm late after trying to do a test and failing. This is actually what goes in my mind during tests. By the way, this is what ADHD does. Medicine does not help. I'll take it because it helps slightly, but not enough. And if I take too much of that, I'll get really depressed, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so that happened, and this and the next comic, number 39, Late Part 2, is also a true story. Both of these are, and they happen back to back. I came out, I ran out because I wanted to meet with my friends for lunch, and they ran away from me. They just straight up abandoned me, got into their car, drove off. The perspective on the 5th panel is complete garbage, but whatever. Perspective on a lot of the panels are bad, but whatever. They drove off, and that was really... I didn't know what to feel about that, because I kind of got middle school flashbacks, and it made me nostalgic. And that's not good. You shouldn't be nostalgic towards abuse. Anyways, yeah, so that was a real thing. At first, I thought it was all the friends. Now, I kind of know the full story. It was just one of the people being kind of scummy, but... Anyways, with all of that, I've forgiven everyone. It's the whole... We had to talk about it. It's okay. One of those people, Colton, I had, is, like, one of my best friends. Here, this is him. him. I had him in a different comic earlier, the one about being late to class, and I updated his design because the old one looked crappy, but in this one looks a lot more like him. But anyways, yeah. So, but I remember the next day when I talked about it, he said, he kind of went a bit about it, and he said, no matter what happens, I hope I can still be your friend. And I never got anything like that before. After I was bullied in middle school, I wanted to make a sequel comic to my 6th grade one discussing what happened in 7th grade, but I really couldn't feel comfortable doing anything about it. One day I might be able to. I'm gonna do this comic stuff for at least one more year till the end of high school. But anyways, yeah, and for the first time someone was saying, I hope I can still be your friend no matter all of this. I've never felt like that before, of someone really caring, and it meant a lot during the time. But anyways, next comic, number 40, Tossing Salad. This one is this is another one of my best friends, Chase. Chase is a great guy. He's an asshole, but I love him because he's really funny too, and he's just a fun guy. Like, he's one of those people who, like, on the surface he seems like he'd just be an asshole, does he care? But then the more you get to know him, you realize he's actually a really caring person and a kind friend. But anyways, with that, this was just because, like, I wanted to make a dumb joke for a comic, and I made these faces and showed them to Chase, and he was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. So I just decided to have the faces carry the whole comic because I thought it was hilarious. So, yeah, those are the faces. That's it. Number 41 single. This is no gimmick, this is me. That was a quote from the rapper Proof that no one cares about except me, which makes me sad. He's Eminem's best friend who died. That's who he is. But anyways, he's a great rapper. You should listen to his song Kurt Cobain. But anyways, no gimmick, this is me. I just, I see these couples all the time, especially around Valentine's Day in public, and I get sad. I don't have any moves. I'm socially awkward around men and women, and I'm not bi, I'm straight. So I can't even have the option, because if I don't feel attraction, then anyways, so I don't know how to talk to people, but it sucks, and I see this every day, and I get jealous. Yeah, this comes from, I hate saying this word again, but trauma of me. Like, I just want to find someone to love and just love them for the rest of my life. A lot of people are like, ugh, I don't want to have sex with one person for the rest of my life, or be with one person for the rest of my life. I want that. Because I haven't had much stability in my life, and I really wish, I just want someone to love forever. Alright, number 42, Follier. This comic has no symbolism whatsoever. No meaning, no nothing. I just thought it would be a neat idea, and if I ever ran out of ideas, I would use it. Well, I ran out of ideas, and I used it. Everyone loves this comic. It is great. Every person I've ever met is like, this comic's beautiful, I love it, there's so much meaning and depth into it. And every time, it either makes me laugh or just pisses me off, because there's no meaning to this. There's no nothing. Which is, it's funny, but that's just how it is. But I do think aesthetically the comic looks really good. I do really like how it turned out in terms, and it does look like something that would have a bunch of deep meaning to it. But in reality, there isn't really anything to go by. It's just, I thought it was a cool idea. Obviously, the ideas of suicide and stuff, I'm never going to commit suicide. I kind of promised myself, unless if things go really shitty, I'm not going to. I've just kind of I've had enough of all of that. And I've kind of lived my life with moments in time, which I'm getting into for my next one. Number 43, Moments in Time. This is my least favorite comic, besides the Trump one. Which, small tangent, not because I don't dislike Donald Trump. I still think he's a terrible president and a terrible person. I just found that comic to be really shitty. Like, if you're gonna make political commentary, make it original. This is why I don't like people like Stephen Colbert anymore, because their comedy isn't original. It's the same bullcrap every day. This is why I love John Oliver, because he is actually original with his like insulting towards Donald Trump. But it wasn't an original commentary. It was just a generic Trump is bad, blah blah blah. My family loves the comic, and I hate it because like it's just there's nothing unique about it. It sucks. Anyways, this is actually a really good comic. It's my second least favorite because this comic took longer than any others because my computer kept breaking. All this, like, it kept constantly breaking. You'd take it in to get repaired, it'd break again, and it was a nightmare. And I even missed the monthly deadline, which is something I never do. And it hurt because I couldn't save the file. The file got corrupted, and then I had to like restart it all again on a new hard drive, and it was a nightmare making this comic. Anyways, this comic goes more into my philosophy and ideas. I've always, as of recent, I've kind of come up with the idea that everything's a moment in time. If you're feeling bad now, you're not going to later. It's just how it is. You know, the next day is a new day. If today's your worst day, tomorrow won't be. And, you know, I've applied that logic to my life, and it's helped me out. Fuck, it's helped my therapist out. And, you know, like, that's kind of backwards when you think about it. But anyways, yeah, it's just my philosophy. If your life doesn't have stability and you just need help, just remember, like, well, obviously get help, but like think that like now is only a moment. If today is as bad as it gets, realize that by tomorrow today will have ended. It's played by Koyczan. That man is like the greatest spoken word poet of all time. Go listen to him. Anyways. So here we are to today. This is yeah, so this comic, I already talked about most of what I believe, but for the future, what I'll say is that I'm at least going to do one more year of making comics. I'm going to do it till the end of high school, which is, I'm going into my senior year. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna be an adult in like 2 months. That is terrifying, but yeah, I've been a kid my whole life. Like, this is suddenly, like, the next level. Obviously, I'm not going to be fully, like, a grown-up. But, you know, it's still weird and scary. But, anyways. Yeah, I'm going to do it at least until the end of high school. Maybe I'll make some in college, but they're not going to be as big of a priority to me. With that being said, I'm probably going to go more into ideas about my parents. I never really include any parents or even many adults into my comics. I think the first adult, and I've only had like 2 adults in my comics ever. The police officer that arrested me for making a dumb weed joke, and a camp counselor in really early comics, which those comics did not age well. But anyways, yeah, so that's all I can really say about that. I'll go more into like my issues with parenting, and maybe I'll make a comic about 7th grade. I don't know, because I have a lot of ideas about it, and I just fuck. And like there's so much that happened with everything, like from abusive principal to bullying to just a lot of that, like verbally abusive principal. Don't worry, I didn't get beaten up by my principal, but it's just a lot of shit. Anyways, with that being said, this is done. Well, this comic's over. This is the end of year number 3 so far, and I hope I see you guys year number 4. Thank you for all the support, everyone. I do appreciate it, like, a lot. And I hope that, you know, in the future, everything will go well. Also, a small update. I'm making a book cover for my best friend Jamel. His mom is making a memoir, and I'm making the book cover for that. So that's cool. But anyways, I've definitely run out of time, so I hope to see you all later. Also, I'm really sorry I fucked up my goal of making 1 comic a month. Computer broke. I get an excuse. But with that being said, thanks everyone for everything. Hope to see you guys again. I hope maybe my fan base of like 2 people grows to 4 people next year. That'd be cool. Anyways, again, I'll see you guys later. Probably, maybe, who knows. Goodbye. I don't know how to end things.